Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, AgilePM V3, What's Changed? My name's Etty, I'm the Content Marketing Executive here at ILX. We'll just give it another minute or so for people to join. I can still see a few people kind of filtering in. And then I'll hand over to Gavin here, who's one of our AgilePM trainers. He's going to be taking you through the main presentation today. So while we're just waiting, I've just got a couple of housekeeping bits that I need to run through. So firstly, you'll notice that you are all on mute. If you could please remain on mute throughout the session, that would be great. If you do have any questions as we go through, there is a little question box up in the top corner. If you just type them in there, and then we'll get to them at the end of the Q&A session. If they're sort of technical questions, then I'll be here sort of in the background to kind of answer any of those issues and help those get resolved. The webinar is being recorded. This will be uploaded onto YouTube after the session, and you'll also be sent an email with a link to that recording tomorrow. So you can watch it again, forward it on to any colleagues or anything like that. And we also like to say give us a follow on social media. We're active on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram. So we share lots of posts on there about other sort of upcoming webinars, events, things like that. So it's a great place to get sort of information from. So yeah, so today's session is going to last about 30 minutes. And then, as I said, there'll be time for a Q&A at the end. So yeah, that's the session. I will just take you quickly through the plan for today. So we're going to be doing a bit of an overview of what Agile is, AgilePM, how it was created, how it helps your projects, and then we're going to move into a little bit more about sort of what's changed between the two versions, the previous version 2 and now onto V3, which has recently been launched. And then, as mentioned, we'll have time for a Q&A, so we'll be able to get to any questions that you have at that point. So Gavin here is going to be taking you through today's session. As I said, he is one of our expert AgilePM trainers. He also covers some of our Scrum courses and our other Agile courses, including Prince 2 Agile, Agile BA, as well as APM and normal standard Prince 2. So yeah, without further ado, I shall hand over to Gavin here, who's going to take you through the main presentation. I hope you enjoy it. And yes, I'll be back at the end for the Q&A.
Thank you, Etty. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you and welcome to this AgilePM version 3, What's Changed? So as Etty says, I'm a training consultant for ILX and also the Agile subject matter expert for the business. I deliver AgilePM and I'm very pleased to see the changes between version 2 and version 3. I think it would be ironic for a project approach that supports an iterative approach not to actually go through changes itself. And it is the first change for quite some time. So it's been, by me and by many in the industry and the business, been well awaited. AgilePM, I'll say without doubt, is one of my most favorite courses to deliver. So I'm going to look forward to taking you, I look forward now to taking you through the changes that have actually been brought about by AgilePM version 3. Okay, if you do need to, if you want to contact me directly, feel free. There's a QR code there that gives you my LinkedIn, but also, of course, contact us via the ILX business and via Etty as well. Okay, so what I want to start off with, whenever I teach AgilePM, I'm always keen that everyone should know a little bit about the history. So if you already know this, please bear with me. But if you're new to the world of Agile, I always feel it's important to understand a little bit of why do we have Agile and what is Agile. The term Agile itself does not necessarily mean project management. It's the term Agile PM that means Agile project management. And Agile PM is one of many different Agile approaches. Agile itself in name has been around since 2001, but it actually began to develop and grow during the late 80s and the first tech revolution that took place. And it did so because of an approach called waterfall. Some of you may be familiar with the waterfall project approach. There's nothing wrong with waterfall. Waterfall is an excellent project approach. So as I explain this now, please don't think at all that I am waterfall bashing. But waterfall goes through steps, and the reason it's called waterfall is, well, which way does water travel? Downhill. It can't go back. And it follows those steps. It had been the mainstay project approach for a long time. The first publicised waterfall approach was probably in the late 50s, 1960s, but it had been incorporated by businesses for a long time. However, new project approaches began to be required because through the tech revolution, as I mentioned, in the late 80s and through the 90s, waterfall wasn't working for them. Waterfall, as I say, is an excellent project approach, but when projects require greater innovation, creativity, and change, that's where waterfall can begin to struggle. Because waterfall projects don't often deploy until the very end of the project. And the issue there is that the solution may not be suitable. The solution may not be ready. The solution often required more time and more money. And we know that's something that's a lot of projects suffer, going over time, going over budget, and often not having that solution ready in time. The issue there as well is that if a project does have to overrun on time and cost, it can greatly reduce, if not completely negate, the benefits we wanted to achieve. It also can affect confidence in projects as well. So Agile is there because some projects have what we call VUCA. Now that is actually a term being incorporated into AgilePM v3. Projects that have volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I'm sure many of those will, of course, put them under the risk category. Sometimes VUCA is not just a risk. A risk is something that may happen, might happen, could happen. But that means they also may not, could not, might not. If we are anticipating VUCA, this is where Agile starts to come into its own. And it was because that Agile, so let me rephrase that, it's because waterfall wasn't working for projects that required innovation, creativity, and change. The industry started looking for new ways of working. This led looking for projects that focused on time, cost, and quality, not becoming variable, but becoming fixed. And this allowed for elements of change that VUCA projects require. Instead, it's the features that begin to become more variable. Now, we're going to protect those critical, those very important features that we need within a project. But there has to be some flexibility somewhere. So where will flexibility arrive? Time, cost, or quality? Can we afford for any of those to not be achieved? One key element to always remember with a project, that the project itself, generally as a rule, is not spending its own money. It's spending somebody else's money belonging to an organization or maybe to a customer. And it was throughout the 1990s that this new approach began to emerge. The first was called Rapid Application Development. That's actually where we began to see for the first time the concept of time boxes and prioritization. In Agile PMV3, we teach that prioritization via something called Moscow prioritization. Musts, shoulds, coulds, and won't have this time. Rapid application development led to something called dynamic systems development method. Not really a catchy title, that is it. DSDM. And that's what Agile PM grew from. Agile PM grew from the DSDM approach. What that did was take the rapid application development approach. RAD's still used, by the way, and so is DSDM. But it added rigor to rapid application development, creating a project approach. Some of you are probably already familiar with the term Scrum. It is without doubt the most well-known of all of the different approaches and ways of working within the Agile framework. Kanban also being a very popular term. So those approaches began to emerge through the 1990s. The Toyota way, and if you've not had a read of the Toyota way, I strongly recommend it if you're working in project management, had a big influence on the Agile world as well. Kanban being one of them, and another being Kaizen, if you recognize that term. K-Zen, the K meaning change and Z meaning good. Change is good. And Agile learn from its own iterative process of finding project approaches. And in 2001, all of these approaches came together, and the Agile Alliance and the Agile Manifesto was created. And the Agile Manifesto, created in 2001, tells us the following: that it's about individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. Now, there is certainly value in those statements on the right-hand side, but Agile will value those on the left more. Now, there's one significant change that I very much welcome in AgilePM, and you'll notice it says working software. Agile has always been synonymous with the IT industry, but it shouldn't be. I've been lucky enough to teach Agile to businesses that are not just from the IT sector. And I've seen Agile work very well in other non-IT sector industries, such as, for example, marketing. In fact, the first time I personally ever used Agile was actually for a marketing campaign and a product launch, and it worked incredibly well. And it worked well because of the concept of time becoming fixed, because we had to hit a certain deadline for that marketing launch. I've seen it used in pharmaceuticals very well. I've even seen it used in the military, would you believe? It's not just used in the IT sector. And so now one big change is, instead of saying working software, to say working solutions. And I think that's a significant change to show that Agile is not just for the IT sector. In 2010, it was actually APMG. They're the awarding body. They manage the exam process. They spotted a gap in the market, and they collaborated with an organization called the Agile Business Consortium, and the AgilePM was born. Agile Business Consortium and APMG have worked together and collaborated to introduce version 3. Agile Business Consortium is a not-for-profit collegiate organization. So what is AgilePM? Well, it's gone through 3 iterations since being launched as AgilePM. There were iterations before, as we saw with rapid application development in DSDM. The first being launched in 2010, that was AgilePM V1. And then the one I've been using now for a number of years and very, very familiar with, AgilePM version 2. Some of you may already be familiar with it and maybe even hopefully qualified in it. And now we have, in 2025, AgilePM version 3, the latest iteration. So version 2 to version 3, what's changed? Well, I want to start off with what remains the same. If you are already familiar with version 2, sometimes people worry, am I going to have to look at this as a whole new qualification? Is it completely different? It's not. It actually uses the guiding principles that were in version 2, known as the 8 principles. Focus on the business need. Very important principle in Agile is collaborate, and collaborate at all levels. Build incrementally from firm down to foundations. That means Agile PM does plan. It often gets accused of not planning. It very much does plan. It's a project approach. Communicate continuously and clearly, and there are various ways of doing that within Agile that's taught within the course. Deliver on time. That was the first reason I ever used Agile, because of that deliver on time concept. Don't compromise quality. That becomes fixed. If quality isn't achieved, that's often going to just create more work later. That itself can actually impact on the benefits being achieved. Think about projects where change is required. We always anticipate some resistance to change when we actually deploy a solution. If the quality isn't there, that just can encourage more resistance to change. Develop iteratively. This is also known as fail fast, fail quickly. Because the later, sorry, let me say that again. Fail fast, learn quickly. fail fast, learn quickly, because the later you fail, the later you learn. That has been one of the issues with waterfall projects sometimes. Iterative development is also, as I describe it in my courses, when we're dealing with projects that have that creativity, that innovation, that VUCA, is that we're often not anticipating that we're going to build the right solution the first time. So why deploy that if it isn't going to work? If it doesn't work, build it again. We think about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. So it's about building the right solution, develop iteratively, and demonstrate control. This aligns with collaboration and communicate continuously and clearly. That the project manager has to be able to still show that they're actually in control, that they understand what's taking place in the project. But it's not just about the project manager. There are other stakeholders in the project as well who want to know how that project is progressing. So there has to be 360-degree transparency for that to work. The 8 principles support the Agile Business Consortium's underlying philosophy that best business value emerges when projects are aligned to clear business goals, deliver frequently, and involve the collaboration of motivated and empowered people. Those last 4 words, motivated and empowered people. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes when we talk about leadership. So what else has changed? Well, Agile PM always had rigor, and it still continues to do so. And from the start of the project, we're going to make sure that quality is not compromised. And when we talk about quality, Agile PM doesn't refer to quality in just as the solution we build, but it's how the project works, how the project acts. To build quality solutions, you need a quality project environment where people are motivated and empowered. And so it's at the beginning of the project that Agile will begin to focus on that. It will focus on both the solution and creating the right project environment. The project should kick off correctly, that everybody in the project understands what the success of this project looks like. It's trying to avoid unnecessary rework. We expect that there may be a need for rework. We expect that we don't deliver the first solution the right time every time, the first time every time. But we've got to make sure that that solution achieves the business needs. If not, the benefits will be compromised. And if the benefits are compromised, are we losing that return on investment? We won't evaluate that we're not achieving or are achieving that return on investment at the end of the project or just at stages. That will be a continuous, always understanding that the project is in line with achieving business needs and giving project stakeholders confidence. It's built for flexibility and change management. Projects are often initiated because of change is required. Maybe to avoid a consequence, maybe something isn't working, or maybe to bring about a positive change within the organization. It's about enabling project managers to handle that change effortlessly, to anticipate that change, but very importantly, to have a project approach that will incorporate that change. So we're building the right solution. Agile PM will work across any industry and any project size. It will scale up. And one of the things it's very good at, which is often overlooked, it will also scale down. Projects do come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And it allows the project approach to have a professional approach and allow change management to be incorporated. Change can be delivered in different ways. Change can be delivered in the Big Bang Theory in one go. Change can also be delivered incrementally. You have to make a decision which is the right approach, and Agile will incorporate both. So what else has changed? There was always some confusion in Agile PM version 2, and it was always time boxes, sprints, time sprints, sprint boxes. Which is it? The first phrase actually used was time boxes. Rapid application development was introduced before Scrum. Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber introduced Scrum slightly after Rapid Application and DSDM. RAD called them time boxes. Scrum called them sprints. There was always confusion because Agile PM referred to them as Agile PM version 2 referred to them as time boxes. But many people are used to using the term sprints coming from Scrum. Even if you don't use Scrum, it's unusual to see the term sprints being used. Well, that confusion is finally over. To support the 8 principles and to deliver within time, cost and quality, because we know how important that is to projects, Agile PM now embraces Scrum as the product delivery engine. It doesn't have to be Scrum. Agile doesn't say this is the way, you have to do it this way. It's not prescriptive like that. It gives a best practice, but it will also give workable options. This diagram might look a little bit confusing at first, but it's just to reiterate the point that Scrum can now be brought in as a development product delivery engine. It doesn't have to be Scrum. If you don't have Scrum teams, that's absolutely fine. Agile will demonstrate how you can use a team of subject matter experts. They don't have to become trained in Scrum. You don't have to incorporate the product owner and Scrum Master into Agile, but it's definitely a worthwhile option for a lot of businesses. What else has changed? Scrum, as we mentioned, is at the heart of team level development. This is one of the reasons why Agile has brought Scrum in, because businesses do already have Scrum teams and they're established and they already know how to work in an Agile way. And so incorporating them into Agile PM v3 can often be very seamless for them. It's a very popular framework that we know works very well when building complex solutions. It's that VUCA again that Scrum can work well with, that volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Scrum works well with those, and it has its own set of principles. It has what's called the 3 pillars of Scrum: transparency, inspection, and adaptation, plus its own principles, and they align very well. If not, for me, I think they align personally perfectly. It also incorporates that Scrum itself is a collaborative approach. As we mentioned, transparency is important within an Agile PM project. It's the same to Scrum. So the roles within a Scrum team and that approach and that way of working and that culture, I'd even say that mindset, they work together very well, allowing a smooth collaboration, open communication, and project flow. Scrum is not a project approach. That's why it works so well. It's almost like having an add-on that you can click into Agile PM v3. Scrum has a Scrum Master, a product owner, and developers. It doesn't have a project manager, but the two of them can actually click together and dovetail very, very well. Scrum doesn't have a project manager, as I mentioned. In fact, there is no manager within a Scrum team. What they've actually done is taken the Scrum Master and product owner. They've actually taken what could be a manager and split them in two. One half of the manager's job being making sure that people know what to do. The other is having a way of working. And by splitting the two, it avoids having a vertical hierarchy, creating a team that can collaborate and work together better. One important word in Agile is leadership. Now, project management still exists. We need management in project management. We still need to be able to make sure that people know what needs to be done and check that it is being done. But one phrase that's often overlooked in project management is leadership. Because whilst management can effectively direct and guide people to what needs to be done, it's leadership that gets things done. That's what gets the best out of people. And so very new to Agile PM, and I personally am delighted to see this, is the 9 new leadership principles. When it talks about actions speak louder than words, they're referring to the manager. Leadership comes from visibility. You can't be an invisible leader. It doesn't work. But it's a case of lead and people will follow. It's the manager's actions that speak louder than words. Quality of thinking, leads to improved outcomes. Having the right group think and focus on quality. I won't read them all out to you. I'll let you have a look at some of these yourself. But there's one there which you can see is the 8th. Emotion is a foundation to enhance creativity and innovation. This is important. Leadership is about getting the best out of people. One of the things I've always really liked about the Agile approach is not just AgilePM, but one thing I've liked about all Agile approaches is it has a high degree of emotional intelligence. And that, as we know now, is so important to the way that so many businesses actually work, from how we recruit, from how we actually motivate people through the business, and how we develop people. Feedback is a two-way process. It's about creating, not just in projects, I'd say we can take this into any organization, that collaborative communities achieve more than individuals. And it's that makes Agile one of my favorite subjects to teach. So what else has changed? The course structure has. It now, because of the addition of Scrum, there are, as I mentioned, I've actually not mentioned, as I've not mentioned, there are 2 Scrum qualifications to start with at the basic level. There is the Certified Scrum Master or the Certified Product Owner, because those are the 2 main roles. There are qualifications developers as well. With Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner, you don't need to take both. What they've actually created now is a combination of the 2 called Scrum Essentials, which runs as a 1-day course. It can be delivered as a training course. It can also be delivered as e-learning. We now incorporate this into, if you are actually taking the full Foundation and Practitioner, with Foundation and or Practitioner, Scrum Essentials is now built in as an e-learning. We appreciate e-learning doesn't work for everybody, so it can be delivered in a classroom setting as well. And then now we have AgilePM Foundation. There's 2 days, and the practitioner element is also 2 days. So if a business or an individual is wanting to do the full set, it becomes 5 days. If somebody already has good Scrum knowledge, you can complete the Scrum Master as Product Owner separately, by the way, still. But if you have that Scrum knowledge, it can just be a 4-day course. And that way, if you do it's a 4-day course, the Scrum Essentials can be actually learned in an e-learning or self-paced environment. The exam formats themselves. So Scrum Essentials, they're all multiple choice, by the way. Scrum Essentials, multiple choice, 50 questions, 74% pass mark, 37 out of 50, which is very doable. 40 minutes, and it's closed book. So you are working from memory. There's no prerequisite to taking Scrum. You can go straight into it. Agile Project Management Foundation is, again, multiple choice. It's 50 questions. It's 60% pass mark, 30 out of 50. And again, very doable. It's 40 minutes. It's closed book. There are no prerequisites, but we strongly recommend having a knowledge of Scrum, which is why with our foundation course and or practitioner, the Scrum Essentials e-learning is going to be invaluable. As mentioned, some businesses may prefer that Scrum Essentials be taken as classroom, though you may already have Product Owner or Scrum Master. The AgilePM practitioner, it is again multiple choice, but now it becomes objective testing. It's based on a single scenario, which does come with additional information. It's a 2.5-hour exam, and it's a 50% pass mark, 30 out of 60. But this time it becomes open book. You can use your textbook. That can be paper-based. There is a digital version arriving later this year, but the paper-based textbook can be used within your exam. You can write in that textbook. You can draw in that textbook. You can put tabs to help you guide you through the various chapters. There is a prerequisite. You must have passed AgilePM Foundation first. Again, 50% pass mark. It is very, very doable. So what else has changed? If any of you have taken AgilePM V2, I'm sorry to alarm you to actually give you a memory of this. You may remember that kind of exam question. If you've never seen that before, take a minute to have a look, see if you can work it out. Well, people often struggle with that style of question. APMG and ABC, they listened. They listened to feedback from both customers and also training providers such as ourselves. And I personally, the phrase I used to APMG and ABC was that we should be testing people's Agile PM knowledge, not their exam technique. And they listened. And credit to them for listening. That question style is now gone. Questions will now be traditional multiple choice, which is A, B, C, D, or sometimes what's known as matching questions, matching the left-hand side statement to the right-hand side. So traditional multiple choice and matching questions. So again, very, very doable. And as part of our practitioner course, too many of courses. As part of our practitioner course, it's not just assisting you with the knowledge of Agile PM, but it's also assisting you with exam techniques as well, which all of our trainers will provide. So how can we help you and your organization and your project practices? We use a tried and tested approach. We use structured project management courses, excuse me, and the framework for Agile PM itself. We know it's a proven practice. It's been established for over 20 years, and it's now had its most recent and I'd say a little bit overdue refresh. And it gives us that governance that we need. And teaching that course will allow you to see how it will align with your own organization's way of working. Excuse me. It will address the full project lifecycle. Sometimes the informality of Agile can feel a little bit concerning to people. It doesn't, if you've ever completed other courses, it doesn't give templates of reports that move between management. But it doesn't mean to say that written reporting can't be used. We use it where it's necessary. It does have that rigor. And that can be part of the course as well, to understand how to tailor it to suit different project approaches. It is a mature offered project approach. And this is designed to help your own organization develop that project management maturity, a way of working that people within the project team and organization recognize. But it's an approach that gives the rigor, but also the agility and flexibility. But it's underlined by the principles of a project having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and having a structure to it that can be followed. So Agile PM will give an extra project approach. Organizations often need more than one project approach. No two projects are ever the same. Having one project approach may often, in some cases, be holding back some of your projects. It is built around flexibility and change management. It's an approach that doesn't see change as a risk, as a threat. It sees it as an opportunity in building the right solution, not just the first thing we come up with and hope it works. It's about making sure that we're able to handle that change, but still deliver within time, cost, and quality. And as I mentioned earlier on, now it's less focused on the IT sector and can work to any industry, to any organization, and any project of any size. And it allows project professionals to be able to incorporate projects that require change and uncertainty into their organizations in a simple and seamless way. It's an incremental approach, not just delivering the solution at the end. We deliver value early and regularly, allowing those stakeholders in the project to have confidence that the project is delivering, but also think about the people building the solution. It allows them to get early feedback that they are either A, building the right thing and should continue that way, or we're not building the right thing and we should change. Agile is very focused on subject matter experts having the empowerment to make the right decisions. Now, it's very important, the phrase is the right decisions, not all decisions. We want to make sure that they are allowed to deal with granular changes to the project that could affect the project's viability or benefits, or the criticality of certain features and requirements will always remain protected and will sit with the project manager and other senior roles to make that decision. But otherwise, where we have that granular change, it's going to aid the project. It's allow us to keep moving forward without being held up by bottlenecks of waiting for decisions to be made. Agile will support that and let those subject matter experts and allow them, within the right degree of being reasonable, allow them to make decisions. You don't buy a dog and bark yourself. Let those subject matter experts make those decisions at the granular level, but we will protect the critical aspects of that project. We can't know all of the detail, particularly when projects have that VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You can't know all of this at the very beginning of a project. So we want to know as much detail as possible. So Agile will still plan the project and it will create firm foundations for how the project will move forward and how the decisions will be made. We'll make sure that those people in the project work in a collaborative way, people being kept involved and informed at the right time, and people get to use those skills in the correct way. Fine detail is going to be important because a lot of quality comes from that. We will avoid trying to predict that too early. Again, allowing that the project will incorporate change. So, Scrum Essentials, AgilePM version 3 Foundation and a Practitioner are now available from ILX. We're already delivering it. I would certainly say I've enjoyed delivering it, and I believe it's been enjoyed by the people who participated in the classes, and it's been excellent to see the successes we've seen already with the exams that have taken place. The study options are e-learning, self-paced learning. We can do live virtual classroom. We can do physical classroom. Do you remember those before the days of COVID, actually getting in a classroom? Well, those days are coming back, and I'm delighted to say that I've enjoyed getting back out and about and into classrooms. And we can also offer blended as well. So to summarize, it's a shift from not just delivering products, but delivering products that deliver value. The project management remains, but now definitely underlines project management and leadership. If you were to teach people within your organization management, would you teach them just management, or would you teach them management and leadership? For me, Agile's done the right thing here. Scrum, one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known of all of the Agile ways of working, is now incorporated easily as an option into the Agile project management environment. It will also now give guidance, which it didn't do before in V2, and I do agree it lacked on this. What if you've got more than one team of subject matter experts? Absolutely fine. That's now been given with some enhanced guidance. And also now, the assessment experience for me, I think the exam has got better. They have moved the way that it shouldn't be about your exam technique. It should be about you demonstrating your knowledge. Does Agile work? Yes, Agile does work, and V3 for me has only added to it. Agile is becoming an incredibly popular approach. It can work alongside other ways of working in the organization. It is flexible. It can be scaled up or can be scaled down. Definitely useful for projects that require the complexity and uncertainty. I will name drop a little bit here and say that certain projects that are incorporating Agile in their way of working is the NHS digital transformation, which is enormous. I've seen sight of it, and what's coming out of it is excellent. It's using predominantly Agile approaches. Same for HMRC, that's also going through a digital transformation. Doesn't always have to be that big. It can be used on small projects as well and scales down. One of the things we're doing with our own training is we're now looking to bring in new facilitation skills. There is something called Mural, which is a very facilitative and participative tool that's used within our AgilePM V3 practitioner training. We're also incorporating into Foundation for version 3 use of something called Menti. It's no longer about just a trainer, slide, which I admit I've done a little bit today. But it's now making use of tools that can allow people to participate in different ways. One of those is Menti. We want to get your thoughts, and you can use your mobile device now to click on the QR code to try it out. Now, what I'm going to do in a moment, I'm going to, well, not in a moment, I'm going to hand back over to Etty. Etty, that takes us to the Q&A.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So yeah, if you can keep filling in your sort of thoughts on the Mentimeter stuff in the background, that would be great. But we shall start answering some of the questions that have come through. So the first one says, can you highlight the parallel to benefits in Agile? Is there a one-to-one in AgilePM?
Is there a one-to-one? Let me just, is that question there that I can see it as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
it should be. It's from Ashok. Sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly. Oh, we've had quite a few from them.
That's okay.
It's the first one.
Can you highlight the parallel to benefits? Benefits, if you're referring, Ashok, to, thanks for the question, by the way, if you're referring to benefits that projects look to achieve, yes, the benefits always remain. Benefits should always be measurable. Agile focuses very much on, though, understanding we're achieving the benefits by delivering value early. Most project approaches, not most, but a lot of project approaches often don't start to assess the benefits until post-project, after the projects have closed. This is why we have often a benefits realization strategy or a benefits realization plan. This delivering value and incremental delivery allows us to be able to have sight that we're actually seeing the benefits being achieved through incremental delivery or aligning with achieving those benefits through the project. We have better sight of that through the project and not just the end. Okay, I'm hoping I've answered that for you.
Yeah,
Etty?
no, that's great. So the next question is, please can you highlight the change management, configuration management aspect within AgilePM?
Yes. So configuration management, yes, absolutely vital. If you're going to need changes, you of course need to think about rollback, because your new version of course may not work. So configuration management is certainly discussed and it's part of AgilePM v3, because if you anticipate going through those changes, you may need change for rollback, you may need it for audit trail, you may need to keep a record of why we've made those changes and what the spend has been spent on. So change management and configuration management. Configuration management, yes, it's incorporated into AgilePM v3.
The next question, are risks, issues, and assumptions a concept used in AgilePM?
Yeah, absolutely. Risks and issues, absolutely. We have to understand that things may go wrong within the project. We have to understand that things will go wrong, and absolutely that is incorporated. In terms of assumptions, well, yeah, this is around, again, Ashok, the certainty versus uncertainty. Agile will talk about both. Agile will use various planning horizons. It will use project planning horizons, it will use increment horizons or sprint horizons. So it will use the long-term horizons, medium and short-term. And that allows us to consider the risk and assumptions at 3 different levels. And I think you've got to be able to consider the fuller picture, but you've also got to be very aware about what may or may not happen about the horizon immediately ahead of us. Hope I've answered that. Has my camera gone off, Etty?
You're a bit frozen. I can still hear you fine, so I've kind of just been carrying on. But yes, now it's gone off.
There we go.
Your face isn't there.
I appear to have, sorry everybody, it might be a welcome break for you all, but I appear to have disappeared off the camera for some reason. I'm not too sure why. I'll see if I can change the settings while we're talking.
Perfect.
Carry
Yeah,
on, Etty.
That's
Thank you.
no worries. Yeah, if we carry on through the questions, like I say, everyone can hear us luckily. So the next one is regarding reporting. Someone says that when using Scrum, they've often found that reporting can be quite difficult if you go until you're sort of a few cycles in. Direct disaster progress reports, things like that. Do you have sort of any recommendations in terms of making sure those reports are still produced, and what kind of reports might be a good solution.
Yes, absolutely. This is again another reason why I like Agile. Some project approaches tell you this is the report to use from team to project manager, this is the report to use from project manager up to project board or project leadership. Agile doesn't do that, it gives options. We in the course can talk about the different ways of working. We know the value of reports, we know why we need reports. As I mentioned, projects spend other people's money, and we have to keep a record and be able to report what the progress being made, risks, issues, tracking towards benefit. All of this commercials has to be reported, but we also need a record, and we can consider both. Not everything always needs to be written. Agile can consider that. Agile will tell you that reports are what we call pushed, but sometimes you don't need to push information. Sometimes you can pull it as it happens. And Agile will give different ways of doing that, using, for example, pulling information from daily scrums or daily stand-ups, pulling information from information radiators. Some of you might use Microsoft Project, Jira, Asana, even things like Trello and Monday. It's about encouraging to understand progress. The difference with the two is that reporting becomes more frequent, but more informal at the frequent, they're almost daily or maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Where it needs that formality, absolutely it can do both, and the course will talk about getting the balance right between the two. Yes, it will incorporate reporting from a formal and an informal perspective. Thank you,
Perfect.
Etty.
Yep. The next question, Clive has asked, what are the best contract arrangements to use within an Agile project approach?
That is a very good question. Do you mean contracts, Clive, with suppliers? Yep. If I don't know the answer to a question, I'm going to be very honest, and I'd say from there, Clive, I'd struggle to answer that specifically, not understanding an organisation. The public sector has its own contract approaches and often preferred supplier arrangements or preferred supplier processes. Agile doesn't go into the detail about how you should set up contract arrangements. Unfortunately, fortunately, Clive, that would be too specific for me to be able to answer today. It's not something covered as part of the AgilePM version 3.
That makes sense. Thanks, Gavin. Hasnat has said, love the Agile vision, sounds very practical to get the best out of staff. How do you change the mindset of senior leadership teams who are used to a more sort of traditional approach?
Yeah, that is a very good question. That is actually, again, that's covered part of the course, Hasnat. It has to be considering the benefits of using Agile. But also, if you think about this, if people are working one way on Friday, people are used to working with written reporting. What will happen if on Monday we say you're not going to get any written reports going forward? People are going to freak out, and understandably, they're going to have that resistance to change that I mentioned earlier. It's looking to work with the senior leadership, explain the benefits of Agile ways of working, but when it comes to them understanding information in the project, ask what they need. And if we ask what they need, the answer may be, well, actually, I don't need as much as I do get in my reports, or I still need it. We collaborate is the key to this. We include the leadership in the planning of the project, and we include the leadership in seeing the value of the project. As I say, asking people who are working one way in a project to completely change, it's not going to happen, hasn't it? And I'm sure you probably experienced that. What Agile can do is still keep that rigor within the project if that's required at the leadership level. But what you would begin to do there is be able to free up the subject matter experts. Let them have the freedom not to become too bogged down in sometimes the bureaucracy of projects. So every project is different and has to be tailored. And that's the job of the project management, to understand the needs of the people within it, understand ways of working, that culture. And you can work in one way at development level, and you can work in a different way with the leadership team. Yes, that can require almost 2 different languages to talk. But yep, that's part of the project manager and the need for them to have that flexibility. I actually totally understand where you're coming with that question, Hasna. There isn't one swallow this pill and it'll have an answer. It's something that has to be worked on gradually. Change takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a regular question. In fact, we're actually running another webinar in a couple of weeks about implementing Agile within highly governed
Yeah,
environments. So that's
yeah.
going to be with the Agile Business Consortium. So you might actually find that one quite useful. You can register for that on our website as well. So yeah, if you haven't
It,
already, that one
I
might be
think
valuable for you.
I think just hasn't that, and I don't want to in any way sort of be flippant about your answer, and I'm caricaturing this, and I think the project manager has to have the ability to work on different floors of an office. And there are times they're going to that top executive suite and they'll be suited and smartly dressed. They have to be able to prepare and work that way. And then there's other times you're coming down working with developers and it's like moving into flip flops and board shorts. You're working in different ways. You're not literally going to be getting changed in the lift, don't get me wrong, or in the stairwell. I'm sure has that you can understand that the project manager's got to have that flexibility and different ways of working. Business analysts are always a great use within your projects if you have those, by the way. Yeah, they can always, again, support the project manager with the information they require. Great question, Hasnat. Thank you.
We've had a follow-up from Ashok about
Yeah,
his or her question regarding benefits management. And this one has just said, where would you sort of document these benefits, and how can you kind of keep track of them and follow them in the Agile PM sort of way of working?
yeah. So your business case, I can see where you're coming from with benefits. Apologies, Ashok, if I misread or misunderstood your question. The business case. The business case outlines the benefits. The business case has to state the benefits. Otherwise, where is the project justification? Why are we spending this time, this money? And I'd even say with projects, the disruption that projects cause. Why are we investing into this? So the business case will always still state the benefit. What we should also be doing is we'll create a project plan, a delivery plan. The project manager creates that delivery plan. Both the business case and the delivery plan within reason should have elements of visibility and transparency through the project. The people in the project should understand the benefits we want to achieve and see in the bigger picture. So again, you create projects at different levels. Project level, what we call tranche level, and then moving down to that shorter planning horizon at sprint level. The reason we're doing this has to be understood at each level. So the business case and delivery plan have to have the right degree of visibility. Now, sometimes business cases, as we know, can range from being 1 page to 67 pages. I should have thought a 67-page business case, but they're out there. If I was to give a 10, 20-page or 67-page business case to everyone in a project and ask them to read it, will they? No, they won't. And I understand why. So instead, if you're going to create a business case, Agile, you heard me say earlier on about demonstrate control, 360-degree transparency. So your business case, in that case, Agile would tell us, create more than one version. There is the version we need for governance. And this is where Etty was talking about with projects within governance, create a business case for governance. We should also create and pull information from that business case to be able to communicate the rest of the project. For me, I think infographics are excellent at that. You can get free infographic software and you can create there what Agile would call a lean canvas. Lean canvas means information's on one page. And if you think there how that can be created at those different levels, we want people to focus, yes, on the overall benefits of the project. How about keeping people focused on the benefits that we want to achieve or steps towards the benefits within the next short planning horizon, such as a sprint or an increment? Infographic software for me is excellent for that because it can be something that people can see. They don't have to turn the page. A lean canvas should only ever be one page. If you've got to turn the page, it ain't a lean canvas anymore. Consider that can be useful. Visuals as well, Ashok, always very helpful. A picture speaks 1,000 words. I hope that's helped, Ashok. Sorry I have to repeat the question, but thanks for doing that, by the way.
No, that's perfect. I think that's all the questions we've had in. So we've still got a few minutes. So if anyone does have a couple more questions, please do pop them in the box. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed, and apologies for the slight technical issues we've had at the end there with Gavin's face disappearing. Hopefully it's not disrupted your experience too much. As mentioned, we'll be sending over an email tomorrow with a link to the recording of this webinar. You can find out more about Agile PM training on our website. And yes, we will be, as I mentioned, we are running another webinar regarding Agile in the next couple of weeks. That is with the Agile Business Consortium. So yeah, that's the one around sort of business governance and how you can make the most of Agile within those sort of more heavily restrained environments. So yeah, thank you very much for joining, and we hope you enjoyed today's session and have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Etty.